China is the world's second economic power after the USA. This country has experienced particularly strong growth since the 1980s. It is a flourishing market and a great opportunity of profit for the United States. But the meeting of two different cultures leads to important cultural conflicts. My name is Steve, I'm 22, and I'm an American trainee. My goal in this video is to present you a deal between an American company that tries to launch a revolutionary product in the Chinese market and a Chinese distributor, and how to avoid cultural conflicts. This is Michael, the American, and Alex, the marketer. This is Daming, the Chinese boss, and Fu Li, his secretary. First example. The American boss tries to formalize the contract between the two companies by signature of both parties. Daming is listening quietly without showing any expression. But the American boss now feels disinterest from Daming. So in the spirit of competition, Michael will try to increase efforts and insist heavily. Then Daming feels assaulted by the American boss and refuses any cooperation between the two companies. The meeting is a failure, but what happened? China is a collectivistic country where there are loads of family corporations. Most of the decisions are taken by family discussions. In the individualistic country of USA, decisions are taken by one, or democratically. Michael has the final authority. But Daming, meanwhile, is not ready to accept the conditions of the contract and not take any decisions as it will not inform his family, father, grandfather, etc. US boss proposal is a short-term profitability to Daming. His plan is to be the first on the Chinese market to sell his product. During the meeting, Alex tries to explain to his expectations, talking directly and giving many details about his intentions. Daming remains straight and silent. Michael is realizing that the discussion is going in one direction, there is no feedback. He becomes confused in interpreting the reaction as Daming attachment. But Daming is equally surprised by the direct language of Serge and his need to sign quickly. He interpreted his response as a lack of confidence in him. The meeting is a failure, but what happened? China is a high-context country where people tend to be reserved, which is considered as an active behavior. They first need to build up an interpersonal relationship in order to find the right level of context. In contrast, low-context cultures as the USA, they argue about each other's opinion. It's the decision-making process they discuss with lots of details in order to come to an agreement. Third example. Michael wants to be the first in the Chinese market with its revolutionary product. But for this, it must take a lot of risk because of the short time frame. So he tries to seduce Daming with his arguments. But the Chinese boss will not let attempt. It is prudent to avoid losing face. He hopes a long-term business with catching the maximum market share. The meeting is a failure, but what happened? The Chinese values are prudence, carefulness, patience, being conservative, protecting your face, while the US tends to modernize, create, innovate, and to be more attractive. An individual or a company must improve itself. An investment requires to sell with the possibility of losing face. Fourth example. At the beginning of the meeting between the two parties, Daming orders to his secretary to sit in other table. The Americans are confused and are interpreting this as exclusionary conduct, as if the secretary had made a mistake. The meeting is beginning in the wrong foot. This attitude reveals the working way with colleagues. The deal doesn't go ahead. The meeting is a failure, but what happened? In large power-distant countries like China, the relation between boss and subordinate is strictly ruled dependent on the boss' decision. CEO, managers, and workers are not at the same ladder. Subordinates expect to be told what to do from their superiors. In low power distance countries, colleagues' relationships are closer. An employee can talk with his boss in the company. Fifth example. During the meeting, Michael says that the deadline to set up the project is on Monday of the next week, so he advises that they have to hurry up. The Chinese thinks that it doesn't matter, the year is too long. He will tell him as soon as possible. But the American boss turns quite upset because he has to respect a product launch program. The meeting is a failure, but what happened? A society deals with the fact that the future can never be known. Should we try to control the future or just let it happen? In high uncertainty avoidance countries as USA, this dimension brings anxiety, while low uncertainty avoidance countries as China can control it. Conclusion. We have seen that a meeting between two different cultures could bring some intercultural conflicts with. In order to avoid these problems, a businessman has to be more patient during the deal. He should watch what happens and should tend to be more flexible with his answers and decisions. In this case, the American boss should have tried to build an interpersonal relationship with the Chinese boss in order to be trusted. He needs to know more personal ways to adapt the right level of context. He has to adapt to the Chinese market too. And finally, he should understand Chinese values as protecting his face and being prudent. There doesn't exist just one answer in order to avoid all intercultural conflicts. That's why open mind, flexibility, and cultural knowledge are required American businessmen learning.